Alright, so these are the next units coming out on Global, and I want to have a little rant about them because I think this is the worst release they've ever done for units ever, and I'm gonna give you a lot of reasons why, and also why you should just skip. But mainly, I think this is gonna be a good discussion because I want to talk about what makes them bad, and I want you guys to let me know a couple things down below. Number one, I'm making a video talking about why BCM failed for the most part. I'm going to have a lot of fun with that because I'm basically going over the history and where they failed and why this was very bad for them in terms of making money. So I'm going to do that. Number two, I also want you guys to tell me if you're summoning for, for Yami and Charlotte. And then also number three, one big thing actually is that Pridewin is has been updated, right? They actually made the tier list pretty much how we had it, right? I think there's no difference actually. I think you just took the tier list we made. And you could see Yami and Charlotte aren't in B tier. So before we really get into why and get into their kits, I'm going to give you some very, very, very big examples from Dokkan. So there's a lot of units in Dokkan that are highly restrictive, and I think this is going to be very good to explain the scenario with Charlotte and Yami. So Nail is actually a pretty good unit, okay? When they have low HP, when the team has low HP, he's going to actually be getting very high damage reduction, which in this game is very good. And then he's also going to be supporting other units, okay? You don't really need to know Dokkan too much, but you got to imagine, right, that this is good. The problem is there needs to be a Namekian unit on the team, and more specifically a Piccolo. And, when you start to look at it in this game, Namekian. So, the problem is that they don't really release many, and there are a couple, okay? You could definitely run either this Piccolo or this Piccolo, but to really, feel like this Piccolo maybe is not the best option. This one's actually pretty good. But it could definitely be a bit restrictive. Now, this is a bit of a more minor case because there are some decent Piccolos, but the problem gets to some other units. So, for example, this guy needs to have a lot of Android Stealth Saga units on the team. And, when you start running him with bad units, that's when it gets a bit iffy. And then Omega needing, a lot of GT bosses, which, when we look at GT bosses, there's basically nothing good, right? So that's the whole point I'm trying to make. And even Gohan, who actually is pretty good, but was locked behind a pretty rough condition, okay? So when you're locked behind rough conditions to get, I think it was more Pre-ZA Pre-ZA was different, was it? The transformation? I don't know. Anyway, when you're locked behind tough conditions, it makes you much less fun as a unit. Now, there are times where these units can shine, and I'm sure Nail is actually going to be pretty good if we get him with a Piccolo. So I really do feel like this was a decent example. Now we could close this. My Dokkan little rant is over. To kind of talk about what exactly these guys do and why it's so bad. Now, I just explained it, but let's go over it. So the main reason is that they are unrunnable without each other. Genuinely unrunnable without each other, which is why they suck so bad, because if you cannot run a unit without running a very certain condition, and that condition actually does not make them the god of the game, then there's a problem when it's two premium units, and it's the only two new units we're going to be getting for like 4 weeks. We got Dorothy, and then the next time we're getting units after summer, the Chami, I'm going to call them Chami from now on, because they're literally not a unit without each other, is 5 weeks away after Dorothy came out. The first week of October. The last week of October, sorry. So, let's get into it. Yami, if your partner in Mage has 4 or more SP, you give SP. If beach training, wait. We're going to start with passives. Okay, so why is it important to start with passives? Well, you'll see. Actually, also the Pridewin site is different. It is unfortunate, but for the site, for them to maintain it, it's good that at least it's still here, because they were considering getting rid of Pridewin completely. So, if Swimsuit Charlotte is your partnered mage, at the start of the wave, grant the beach training buff to you and your partnered mage. If Swimsuit Charlotte on your team dies, grant yourself a beach training buff once per battle. So he could get beach training twice from his passive. And what does it do? When HP is below 30%, grants immo. So he gets twice immortality, not 2-turn immortality. Big difference, but he could get immo twice. So, and also, by the way, how it works is, let's say you're in immo, well, you could get the beach training effect while having immo, and then technically reproc immortality afterwards. So I just wanted to kind of make that clear. Why is this bad? Because his whole passive is linked to Charlotte. Okay? And then if we go to Charlotte's, if Swimsuit Yami is your partner mage, at the start of the wave, grants the buff to yourself and partner mage being Sunbath. When HP is below 30%, get 90% lifesteal. Now, this one's not as crazy, but you could imagine getting lifesteal is pretty good to get yourself back out of 30% to reproc immortality. So, both passives locked behind Summer Charlotte and Summer Yami. Now, the Dupe passives are also a problem because it's what makes them even runnable, but the problem is no one wants to get them duped up. Grants 50% damage increase when attacking a defender. Looking actually like it's a good pass. Oh, I forgot the site's more glitchy. It's a bit unfortunate, but you know, we'll take it. We'll take what we could get. Like there's some good defenders. Noel, Mario, and then we also have Vetto in the wrong Vetto. This Vetto in the loop. And then Black Asta might come back in the future to be good. Then at the start of the term, if debuff is not present on self, grants self 30% all attack increase. Now that's good, but then you also need to get Charlotte max dupe for it to be usable, because her dupe 2, if you take damage from a defender, you get damage reduction to attacker allies. So even Yami, right? And then her dupe 5 gives debuff immunity to you and your partner mage for 2 turns at the start of a wave. So for the start of the battle, you get debuff immunity, which is going to be good against Dorothy, right? But the problem is you need both of them dupe 5 for it to be even good, because you need this one to make sure you can't get debuffed, and then you need this one to actually get the buff for himself. So that is already a problem. But then you also have a combined attack, which is also what makes him very good, because you got a bleed here, and then you got attack increase to both of them, and then here you got damage increase and mark on the enemy for 2 turns. It's a very beautiful combo. I like it. But the problem is, like, if you're going to limit them to only being together, then it's like they have to be way better than this, right? Because right now they have immortality, but they don't have any way to combat MO, okay? They don't do a crazy amount of damage unless you build them up right, and then they take up 2 slots. That's the most important thing. Because other units that just have immortality, for example, Raya, takes up 1 slot. These guys take up 2, right? And then Charlotte actually can get immortality, right? What is it? Yeah, so Charlotte gets immortality once here, but then when you do this, was it this one? Am I tripping? I remembered that you could get, am I tripping? Hold on, I feel like I'm actually going crazy. Because you could get, yeah. And then if Charlotte dies, you get beach training. And then is there something about beach training here? Okay. Yeah. This is it. Sorry, I was losing it. So first of all, he removes barrier, which actually you could do a lot of damage with this, right? I did test it. If Sunbath is present on self, attacks after granting a defense pen level 5, which makes it very, very strong. And then upon killing an enemy using the skill, inflicts bleed on all enemies, which is a pretty weak skill. It should apply bleed on everyone no matter what. And then the ult on Charlotte gives for every instance of bleed there is on the enemy a 45% damage increase. But then the big one is that if Yami does not have beach training, which is the immortality buff, you will give him beach training every time you ult. Very, very strong, okay? And then her skills are pretty decent, okay? The skills are pretty decent. Let's talk about them. So skill 2 is just single target, puts bleed, and then if beach training is present on self, you give technically Charlotte 20% mobility, and then his skill 1 gives SP to himself if Charlotte has 4 or more SP, and then it inflicts bleed. So he's meant to be run with Charlotte, and then hers is AoE, applies mark on everyone, which is very good. You can get some shenanigans in, and then if Sunbath is present on self, grants yourself and partner mage 30% increased attack buff for 2 turns, okay? This Sunbath is the lifesteal, which gives you the increased attack. And then her skill 1 gives SP if Yami has 4 or less SP. And then she gets speed increase if Sunbath is present on self, which is her skill, right? That's her skill. That's the one where she gets lifesteal. So they look on paper to be decent, right? Not great, but decent. Also, Charlotte's the quickest attacker in the game, being at 110. All right, every quickest, because if you check, do they still have this part? Yes. If you check attacker, she is the quickest by 1 speed, which means Lumiere is going to be like 115. So Charlotte she's not horrible, right? They're not horrible. The problem is that you're taking up 2 slots for what 1 unit could technically do, right? Because we look at it, and Fuego's got immortality. He's going to have lifesteal. He doesn't necessarily need debuff immunity, but he's going to get all attack increase. He's going to have an AoE, right? He's going to do a bunch of stuff that they're doing, and it's like, cool. They're cool. They get attack increases, and sure, they could do damage. But what the hell are you doing against immortality units or invulnerability units, right? Because it's not just enough now to have immo. You have to have immo and then remove immortality, right? Now, there are cases, by the way, where if Yami's in immo and then Asta is in desperate and he tries to attack Yami, well, Yami will not die because he's in immo. Asta can only kill if the unit is not in immo. He removes the immortality if they're not in immo, but he doesn't remove immo when they're in immortality. So Yami would live. But that doesn't happen much. Okay, that doesn't happen much. And then they need very high stats. So let's go over the problems. They need to both be max duped. They do. They do. Especially Charlotte for her speed. They need to be max duped. Okay. And then the problem is they need to be Rant together. That's number 2. And they're both red, which makes it a bit worse in the case that there's no red that has the, immortality removal, which then means you have no way to really countering them if you want to run mono red, which is kind of what they're forcing on you, because they kind of want you to run it with Dorothy, it seems, but then it's like, it just doesn't help. And then number 3, the real killer is they're both attackers, so they both want to be ran on attack to make them as good as possible, and then even worse than that, you might be like, oh, but I could still run a magic attack. No, you can't. And why is that? Because the combo puts increased attack on everyone. She puts increased attack on her skill too. So you're going to want to run attacks so that you can maximize their damage. And you will be using this combo, by the way. I just want to make that clear. So, yeah. They're highly restrictive. Highly restrictive. And they don't even get good. That's the problem. They don't even get good. The examples I gave before, if you meet the restrictions, they could actually be good. Even Omega Shenron can be good. The problem is you can't reach those restrictions. Here you can reach the restrictions. It's very simple. Put them with a combo mage, but then it loses so much value in your whole team, which is a huge problem. Okay. So you guys let me know, do you think there's any release worse than these two coming, like that happened in the game? For me, I don't know. Shit. Let's go to the official Discord. Let's go in banner summons. I don't know, like, is there a worse release? Like, Finral was pretty bad, but he had mono blue. These two were good releases, I found. Gray was a pretty bad release. This might have been the worst release, but they had Kohono, which was good for PvE. Maybe Rill and Noelle. I feel like Noelle on her own was a bad release. But that's kind of it. Like, there's not a release that was really worse. It's just the meta didn't get moved for many months. Like, if we're talking about bad releases, it's all the, like, recent-ish units that are here. So, like, Yami, Noelle, Luck. So, Yami and Luck was a bad release. Yeah, that was a bad release for sure. And then I'd say Party Nozel. Yeah. Finral. Ooh, Finral should be an A. Maybe he should be an A, because, like, I'm seeing the mono blue team a lot, and it actually does work. So maybe he should be an A. But yeah, that's basically it. This is my little rant. I guess you could even go further to say that you need to max dupe these, because this gives a damage increase. And then, what does it add? What does it add? It adds bleed on everyone, which is good for her for the extra damage. But then the other one is here, which this one is arguably more important because it gives speed if he attacks someone with bleed, right? And then here, it adds SP increase, which isn't crazy. It's mainly the speed that's very good that I found. So yeah, these two units, like, on paper are good, but just don't translate. And the problem is no one has 2 attack sets ready besides Whales. And no whale wants to summon, because even if you do get both attack sets, both of them max dupe skill page, then they're still bad. They're still not good, which is a problem. Okay, so that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think of why BCM failed and who you're going to be summoning on next. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.